Hey everybody, it's Jack with Future Pastimes and welcome to The Warp. This video is about the April 2025 Cosmic Encounter Alien of the Month. And so for this alien, we are going simultaneously all the way back to the original aliens ever published, but also with a new spin on it because our alien this month is zombie, but it is the alternate timeline zombie that is available in Cosmic Odyssey. Cosmic Odyssey, the seventh expansion for Cosmic Encounter. So this is a different take on zombie than the one that many people have known and maybe even grown up with over the years. So let's take a look at what this one does, and I'll talk about how it's different from the original zombie and why I think it is a better version of zombie. The whole point of making it different. So let's take a look. So this zombie has the power of reanimation. So right off the bat, we're a little bit different, and you'll see why very quickly. During each regroup phase, use this power to free all of your ships in the warp, sending them to one of your home planets, including a planet without a home colony. Additionally, you may free any number of another player's ships from the warp as part of a deal with that player. So, still pretty simple, still pretty straightforward, still tangentially related to the original idea of zombie. So let's quickly review what the old zombie did. The old zombie just never went to the warp, was the idea. So with the original zombie, when you lost an encounter, your ships wouldn't go to the warp, they'd just go to other colonies. But they would still, if you were being attacked in one of your home planets and you lost, you would lose that planet, and the bad guys would get colonies there, and your ships would go somewhere else, which means that if that happens 3 times in your system, then you actually lose your alien power. And in fact, your third home planet, home colony, that is not only losing you your power, those ships are going to the warp. So you'd only really get to do this twice in your home system. They can do it as an ally, you can do it as the offense, and so it's still pretty good. It lets you risk your ships willy-nilly and know that they're not going to go to the warp, so it'll be all right. But eventually they will go to the warp. So this one is a little bit different. The other thing that's worth pointing out is that it was determined in FAQs and follow-ups from Kevin Wilson, Fantasy Flight in general, that when a zombie plays a negotiate card and loses that encounter, they don't get compensation, because you only get compensation for each of your ships that goes to the warp. And since none of their ships would go to the warp most of the time, zombie didn't get any compensation, which was kind of a bummer. Hence, alt zombie. Alt zombie does go to the warp. Their ships go to the warp every time they lose. Any effect that sends your ships to the warp, they go to the warp. But at the very next regroup, all of your ships that are in the warp come out and they all go to a home planet. Which means if you did lose one of your home colonies, you're going to be getting it back at the very next encounter. So there's no clause here about how you don't lose your alien power for having too few home colonies. That is still possible. But it's really difficult to happen with Alt Timeline Zombie because they keep getting those home colonies back. The very next encounter, if they have even one ship in the warp, they're going to get that home colony back. So no sweat. That means that, yes, as zombie, you can still send 4 ships on the offense, send 4 ships as an ally. You are in good shape. Now you're going to want to, if you send 4 ships as the offense, you're going to want to start using some of those ships, probably 2, on future offensive encounters or as an ally, so that you don't have all of your ships on foreign colonies. That's not generally a great idea. But yeah, you can still be as reckless as you would want it to be, as you were with the original zombie, and you get compensation now because if you're sending 4 ships, and you know that you're going to negotiate, send 4 ships or use 4 ships or whatever, and get all that compensation, because you're going to get the cards and then you're going to get those ships right back, which means that when you're getting rewards, you never need to get ships out of the warp as rewards. You're always going after cards. So I love alt timeline Zombie. And I think it is a better version of Zombie. And there were a few different homebrew solutions for Zombie that have popped up over the years, especially with the Fantasy Flight Edition, as people realized, oh yeah, it doesn't get any compensation. This also kind of clears up the age-old question of Zombie versus Void. So yeah, this Zombie does get affected by Void. So did the other one, to be clear. But now it's not even really a question. So because there's none of this, you're not circumnavigating anything. You're not avoiding the normal consequences. You just have a new clause to get ships back. But it's only from the warp. So you're not going to be automatically saved from the Void. And there is an alt timeline Void in Cosmic Odyssey that is much scarier than the original Void. So you got to keep that in mind. And of course, the other thing is that you can still negotiate when you're making deals and free another player's ships from the warp. But here it makes even more sense. The original Zombie, thematically, if we even want to couch it in those terms, they're not in the warp. How are they negotiating people to get out of the warp? I also feel that thematically this feels more like a zombie. Zombies, they return from the dead. They rise from the grave, as it were. And so these are reanimating. These are, your ships were alive and they go to the warp and then they return. So it works for me in every possible way better than the original Zombie, which was, again, a fine alien. It was okay. It has stood the test of time, more or less. But again, when you're in a situation where now we've got 200 plus aliens, you start to revisit some of those original aliens and you might have wanted to make some adjustments. So if Zombie had never been created before, I think this is a much more likely version of Zombie that would have shown up eventually. And that's because it's taking into account things like compensation and the Void and other effects that the original Zombie didn't anticipate. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about this version of Zombie as compared to the original? You can technically still have both of them in your set and both of them in the game. I have replaced my Zombie, so I don't deal out the original Zombie because there's a better Zombie in town. So I think that's a better way to go. Keep the old Zombie flair. Because again, the flares, the alt timeline flares look different. So you always know if you've got the original or you have the alt timeline one. It's quite obvious. And so, yeah, keep those flares in there. Flares are great. And it's fun to have a lot of interesting effects. So thanks for watching this one, everybody. And hopefully we will see you again soon.